With regards to the development group, I knew as a link officer that I had a responsibility to participate in undertaking that piece of work. And so what I did was I consulted with our head of service, Carol Salmon, to think of a project or a team or something imminent that was going to happen in Flintshire Children's Services that would benefit from being part of the development group process, the year that it takes, and from also being part of the support and encouragement that Research in Practice give to those particular projects. And it was really good timing because in Flintshire we had 2 preventative teams that were quite small and had become quite large really, and obviously prevention is better than cure, and we were promoting a lot in Flintshire around preventative services, and the 2 teams were becoming one major preventative team, and there was a new team manager recruited, a new senior practitioner recruited, so it was a new team, but it was as a result of 2 previously functioning teams. So that was a challenge really for the new team manager of that team. And so Carol Salmon, the head of service, and I thought that that new team manager would benefit really from the support that they would receive from being part of the development group project, which did indeed become the case. And so when that new team manager was appointed, he and I attended the development group sessions, and we went through the programme, and it did indeed inform, well, it was evidence-informed practice. He did a lot of research. He worked really closely with Elizabeth and the team in Research in Practice, and they were very, very helpful in helping him form a new team from 2 previous teams who were quite resistant and anxious about what this new service was going to look like. And we recently attended the last session, which took us through the whole process, and there were some really good results, really pleasing results, and certain smaller aims and objectives within that amalgamation of the 2 teams were to reduce the waiting list for people waiting for preventative services, family support services, to increase the feedback that the service would get from service users and families so that they could inform what sort of a service these people were getting, and was it hitting the mark, was it actually serving the people that it was meant to serve in the way that it was meant to serve them. And that feedback has been coming through a lot more as a result of the development group. We and the service, the new service that was set up, Family and Adolescent Support Team, I think they've benefited from focusing on developing their team and their service based upon other people's experience, and research and evidence did majorly inform how the team manager went about forming the team, establishing its purpose and its objective, and delivering the services to the people that needed it. And it really grounded us in evidence-informed practice.
Well, the purpose of our project was to increase the inclusion of fathers in our assessment process so that they were more visible in the assessment. So if you picked up a referral, we would be asking questions about the father as well as the mother, and trying to ensure we had their names and addresses, and that we approach them as well if they weren't living in the household. I felt that we needed to have represent men positively, because we're the change we want to see, and I want men to be positively represented and positively part of their children's lives. The research shows, or evidences, that what we already know fundamentally, that men engage in a different way in parenting and in relationships to children than women do, and that to include men is to maximise the child's resources. It completely changes the outcomes for children. There was a little resistance because social services tends to be female dominated, and I think people have stereotypical perceptions of men working or being with children, and we needed to overcome that, and that was part of the process of the project. That was what I was hoping to achieve, was a more inclusive approach to both men and women. Men do engage differently with social services to how women would perceive it. So they see the word support, and that they see that as slightly more negative than information or advice. So when you're presenting your service, you need to be very mindful of the words that you choose to maximise the engagement of men in the service.
We were tasked as members of Research and Practice and the Loam, and we were tasked then to undertake a project this year, and it was for the link officer along with a team manager or senior prac within the organisation, and so it was about improving access to research. It sort of almost jumped out at us as being something that Alison had an interest in that anyway, so it just seemed the right one. This was then taken to childcare managers, and we had the go-ahead and the okay with everybody to do that. We've got a very good head of service, and he was definitely on side with the project from the start, and that filters down sort of generally. But all of our managers are very keen to look at new things. They're quite embracing. They will look forward. So we're very lucky, really. We have a good set of staff. When it started, we had our vision, and it was quite sort of difficult to formalise it, to make it more tangible for everybody. Once we'd got that down, with the sort of use of looking at the tools and the books within Research and Practice, that helped us to put a good package together for our managers, which would enable us to get them on side to take it forward. What we used was the team audit, but we sent it out to each individual for them to fill in from their own experiences. So rather than feeling they had to maybe toe the corporate line or whatever they're feeling, they could do it for themselves. So we felt that was a way to get a base level, and we will be repeating it then in 18 months' time. It formalised what we thought anecdotally, that the teams were using research and evidence where they could, but perhaps it wasn't as widely spread as it should be or could be. And so there was a piece of work to be done to expose them to more areas of research, to access it in different ways, and new resources or sources of materials that they hadn't perhaps previously thought of using. From doing this project, the research, we are now developing a library, and that is collating all of the books, magazines, resources that we have throughout the authority and putting it in one searchable database. So that's a piece of work that's ongoing. So it's a secondary part, but still driven by this project. But it was an unexpected outcome, I think.